10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
That's right, folks. We are back. Oh, that was loud. All right, folks, we are back, and we are happy to be here with you. This is No Soundbites Allowed with your host, Michael Voss, the Dragon of the Southern Tier. And more importantly, we are on the Exceptional Conservative Network. That is right, the TECN TV. And we are here every Tuesday at 1 p.m., every Thursday at 1 p.m., Saturdays from 12 till 2. And we look forward to always having you here with us. Please remember, your voice is important. We want to hear you. That means that when we're on, please send us a text on our phone number, 607-242-9247. You can reach out to us on Twitter at MVConsult. You can reach out to us by calling in. Or you can also reach us on Facebook or, of course, our chat room. We look forward to talking to everyone. Your voice is the thing we want to hear. So we have a lot going on here. We have our intern, John the intern, is here with us. Or John, is it better John the college intern, or is it better John the intern?
I prefer just John the intern. I think that works best.
Okay, we'll go with John the intern. Mm-hmm. And we have an image for that. We're going to fix that in a minute. And I'll deal with that in a second. But there's a lot we're going to be talking about today. A heck of a lot that we're going to be going over today. Information that not everyone is probably expecting here. And that's because we have stories on a lot of breaking issues, a lot of stories on what's happening here, not just locally, but also nationally. But also I want to do something that's a little bit different. And that is, we want to have some fun. We want to have some enjoyment here because it's not always a work day. Well, matter of fact, this weekend took a little time after doing a bunch of yard work to relax a little bit. So we're going to be talking about a couple of different things here. We want to talk about what's going on in the media and how some in the media are protecting, not just at the national level, but we've seen this bleed down to the local level and how they're protecting certain politicians and certain issues to advance a political goal. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to be talking about the CDC. A lot of people may not be aware of this, but the CDC, sorry, just fixing my sound levels here. The CDC really came out with an announcement that's huge yesterday that a lot of people, especially if you believe in the Second Amendment, if you believe in the right to protect yourself, to bear arms, the inherent right that it is, there's some very important news about that coming out from the CDC. We're going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to be talking about the 2020 election and a very unique take on the 2020 election. And so we'll talk a little bit about that in the Siena poll that came out as well. So before we do all that, though, I do want to introduce everyone, give you a quick look here at that's right, that is John the intern. Say hello, John the intern.
Hello.
That's right. He's got his little Make America Great Again, and he's looking good. He's ready to talk. We're going to have some fun. And he's got a few things that he wants to speak about as well. So let's start off with, first of all, we're going to go with, I'm going to start off on my pet peeve. This morning, see, I live in upstate New York, and in the region that I'm in, there is one talk news radio program. Now, a lot of places throughout the nation, you have multiple programs. You have, some shows on AM, some on FM, like up in the Utica region of New York, which is in Oneida County for people who are not quite so familiar with it. There's a FM and there's an AM talk radio program. So you get to hear different voices, different opinions, different ideas. You have the the AM guy who I won't speak to anymore because I've had big problems with him when I've been on the show. He literally cut off my microphone as I was speaking, answering a question he had. And that's Bill Keeler. So I don't like his program, but he's on. And then there's WUTQ, a program I've also been on. And I think those guys are great. They do a great job, Jason Aiello, and also Mark Wahlberg and Rocco LaDuca. They do a great job, the three of them together. I've been on the program for, 6-7 years. So you have different voices, and they have different opinions, and they bring that together. That's what you see in most communities, 2 or 3, maybe more different programs talking about the different issues that affect you. Down in my region, which is in the southern tier of New York, we have just one guy, one voice, one opinion. And it's aggravating. And I'll to give you an example of that. This morning, as I was listening to the show, and I listened to several shows, getting news and getting prepared for everything I do here today, I'm listening to the show, and a member of Progressive Leaders of Tomorrow comes on. She's a candidate for a city council race, Aviva Freeman.
That sounds about right.
Yeah. She's on, and, very nice voice, very sweet sounding. And she completely avoids the fact that what her political affiliation is. She's talking about how she's shown up once to a city council meeting, and that it was in the city council meeting, which was organized by the fanatical fringe left of the region. She was part of that. Well, fantastic. And that was the welcoming resolution. You can go to my site, mvass.com, the Voss Political Commentary site, and you can see my article on that. It was in 2015 and 2018. But she avoided mentioning that Progressive Leaders of Tomorrow are social justice warriors, that they think that all white people should apologize for being born, that they disagree with, they don't like the police. They don't like the police doing the job of protecting the public. They have a lot of issues. And she doesn't want to talk about that. And of course, the host, who I don't want to name, because I do show up on the show sometimes, although I have disagreements with him and he knows this, won't mention any of that. He's not telling the voters something that's essential. Now, if you want to vote for Progressive Leaders of Tomorrow, PLOT, or Citizen Action, or Black Lives Matters, or Antifa, which are essentially all the same people in this region and all the same ideology, that's fine. Go for it. That's your right. You have the right to vote for anything you want. I would never tell you not to do that. But for those of us who are maybe in the middle or on the right, they should know what they're dealing with. What does Political Leaders of Tomorrow stand for? I've actually been in one of their meetings where they mention how they refuse to have any member of law enforcement in their meetings. Their meetings are quasi-secretive, that you have to be invited into those meetings so you can find out what they're going to talk about. They won't talk to the press. They won't mention to people that they literally have advocated in a meeting where I was in, that they tell minorities you can destroy rental properties that you live in because that's white supremacy. Let me be clear. Being a landlord is white supremacy, and that you are allowed to destroy the property of someone who is white, a landlord in a rental property. That's what PLOT tells people. I know this because they said it, and I was there in the meeting as they said it. This is what Aviva Freeman is looking to promote. Do you think that when she is on a program, a news program, a talk program, informing voters about what she stands for, that they deserve to hear about that? I think they do. I think that's important. And that's a failure in our media when we have people, and I'm not saying that, I am political as anyone else is, more than most. And I'm not saying that I don't have a bias. Of course I do. I am a Republican conservative political commentator. I'm telling you that up front. It's on everything that I do, so that you know, when you listen to this, is there a right lean to everything I'm saying? Sure. Of course there is. Because that's my perspective. I am a political commentator. I'm honest about it. But when we listen to many other people who do talk shows, who do political commentary who do news, and they don't tell you that there is a lean, that they have a certain very specific perspective that they are going to give you the news on, and that they are avoiding talking about issues that are important to the public, then there's a problem. And I know this is a problem because, you can, if you wonder, go to the Twitter feed, MV Consult. Look at what I was saying June 11th throughout the morning. Okay, you can start from about 9 a.m. going until about 12. You can see everything I was writing there, and you'll see I'm asking questions that she should. Whoops. Hang on, folks. We got one of our background things that are going off here, and I don't know where it is. And I know that's annoying. Bear with me a moment as I fix this.
CDC.
CDC?
Yeah. It's from the CDC page.
Sorry about that. Oh, that's where it's coming from. I apologize, folks. We just had a burst of sound coming from a commercial, and we were trying to fix that. I apologize. That's from one of the articles, and some of the things we're going to be talking about in a second. I apologize. Sometimes it bleeds over. But my point is basically that, you should know what's going on. And our talk radio, our news, should be upfront about where they stand. I'm not telling you that they can't have a political position. I'm telling you that they should tell you that. And they should tell you that they're not going to ask certain questions that may affect elections because they have that political preference. And that also goes to what we saw with Dan Livingston, Councilman Dan Livingston. Now you may remember that I've talked about Councilman Dan Livingston before. Councilman Dan Livingston is in my January 10th article at the Voss Political Commentary site. Yes, there it is. The Voss Political Commentary site at mvass.com. And you can also answer our poll, which is apologizing for being born a specific race racist, which so far most people are saying no. But on January 10th, I was talking about Councilman Livingston's first day. And on day one, he came out and he committed ethics violations with illegal videos of the members of city council. And then he went on, and in January 25th, the issue became even more important as he was being investigated for his ethics violations. You would think he would have learned his lesson from that point. But no, he calls in today to the local talk radio program. And this is in reference to the fact that Dan Livingston did not learn. It was reported on June 7th that, and this is from WBNG, Councilman's Facebook video causes concern over potential security breach. Okay? And the article, basically, Councilman Dan Livingston took a tour of the Binghamton-Johnson City Joint Sewage Treatment Plant, a $300 million public asset, 2 weeks ago with Councilman Conrad Taylor. And at that point, he took a video of the plant. Now, why is this important? What's the big deal? Because he went out and he showed sensitive information that Homeland Security has regulations saying you cannot do that because it is a public safety hazard. It is possible to cause thousands of people to be killed by ignorantly or maliciously showing video of sensitive items in that plant and having someone do something about it. So this is something that Mr. Livingston, who has the only constant claim of, well, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. His answer to everything is, I didn't know that. I didn't know that was the problem. Did you ask? Did you check? He never does. And this is a problem. So when he called in today into the local news talk program, you would think that, the person, the news reporter there would say, hey, Mr. Livingston, you're telling us you called in. Is this in reference to your recent violation of Homeland Security regulations? And he didn't. What he called in, Mr. Livingston called in to say, well, the city has a problem too. There's another video that's out in the public on YouTube. And, it's the problem of the city. They have to get rid of that too, because it also shows sensitive information. Here's the thing. That has nothing to do with what Councilman Livingston did. Did the host mention, well, that's a separate video. That's a separate issue. It has nothing to do with your violation of Homeland Security. No. Now think about it. You have someone who's gone out, a member of government, that has gone out and endangered the very constituents that he claims to protect. And his answer is, well, other people have a problem too. How does that make you safer as a citizen? Think about that. If, I don't know, Chuck Schumer went out and showed video of U.S. secrets to the public and the world, and he pointed to another video by someone else doing something similar, would that make you safer? Does that make what he did better? I mean, quite honestly, that's the answer that we're talking about here. Because someone else may have done something that is also a problem, well, then it's okay. That is the most stupid logic I've ever heard in my life. And you should have heard someone in local news media say, well, that's dumb. That makes no sense. That doesn't absolve you of the crime and the problem that you did, and has nothing to do with it. No. What you heard is the news media said, local news media said, oh, well, that's quite interesting. Wow, I wonder why they did that. Well, the answer is because that YouTube video is not in control of the state, of the city government, and therefore they couldn't remove it, although they're trying to. We know this because that's what the Mayor Rich David, said. But I just think it's really interesting that we can go with a member of local government, can be called out, can be identified for having endangered the security of the public. And when he goes to try and excuse it by blaming someone else for something else, he gets away with it on local media. We should stop that. Please listen to your local media, see if they're doing the same thing. So that's a little bit of a gripe. I went on with that longer than I expected to. Let's move on. And speaking about local politics and something that's of interest, a lot of people may not have noticed that there was a Siena poll yesterday. And this is on June 10th. It was reported on the 10th by Siena College Research Institute. And it's getting some attention here. And there's two things that really caught my attention about it. One, they're noticing that among New York candidates, Gillibrand crushes de Blasio with Democrats. Gillibrand leads Trump by 24 points. De Blasio leads Trump by 12 points. You know how misleading that is? Wow. Among Democrats from New York, there are only 2 Democrats from New York in the race. Nobody cares about either of them. 76% of New Yorkers hate de Blasio as just in general, not to mention as a candidate. Do me a favor, Intern John.
Yep.
Go to Real Clear Politics, the 2020 Democratic polls. Tell me, what is the current number for de Blasio and Gillibrand in the national polls? You'll see it in their average. I'll bring it up.
De Blasio and Gillibrand?
Yeah.
You can see Gillibrand sits at a 0.4 and de Blasio sits at a 0.7.
Okay, say it into the microphone this time.
Got it. De Blasio has a 0.7 and Gillibrand has a 0.4.
There is your national averages. This is what people think of in the New York. And you're looking at the poll right now. Is there any New York Democrat that ranks anywhere else? I don't care if higher or lower.
No.
That's right, because there is no one else in the race.
No.
And so to say that among New York Democrats, are you telling, come on, we're in the bluest of blue states. The only state that even compares is California. And to say that our candidates within our state are doing better than President Trump, a state that hates New York. Now, mind you, not the people. There are plenty of people who love President Trump. And in particular, in the New York 22nd District, he won by 16 points, President Trump. So let's get some reality here. But to say that someone who is getting 0.4% and 0.7%, not even 1% of the national population of Democrats, can't care about them. They could care less about these guys. To say that they're leading, they're not leading anything. They're leading on the way out of the race. Let me ask you, intern John, is there anyone who's lower than Kirsten Gillibrand?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Who?
Williamson.
Williamson? What's he got?
0.2.
Oh, wow. I don't even know why they're bothering to do a poll on him. Okay, so that gives you an idea that this is the kind of misleading thing that I'm talking about in the media. Okay? So it's not just a local thing. This is national. We're seeing that in this race, you've got so many misleading things. Because, well, not even just in the race, just in politics in general. So we're talking about on a local city level, we have one individual who's in the media who won't tell people information that they need to know. And then on the other end, on a national level, the Siena poll, we have this misleading statement that somehow these New York Democrats are doing well, that they're beating Trump. Are you kidding me? They can't even get 1% nationally. Gillibrand has been at this for about 7, 8, 9 months. She started running for president when she was running for Congress, for the Senate in 2018, lying to all of her constituents, saying that she was going to fulfill her Senate term and not run for the 2020 presidential race. She lied to people, part of the reason why she's at less than 1%. So it's misleading at best. But the thing I really wanted to focus about that is, let's look at the poll that was done. And the other thing that's really important about this poll is the issue of driver's licenses for illegal aliens. Nobody in the nation loves this. This is a bad idea. People hate this idea. It is literally rewarding criminals for criminal actions. You are literally rewarding people who have knowingly violated the U.S. regulations on immigration, have entered into our nation, and are demanding to have a reward, a driver's license, which would allow them to be able to vote. Mind you, this is the important thing. We're talking about voting because it would be automatically, according to the bill that's out there, the green light bill, they would be allowed to go out and they would be registered to vote. So you're basically giving illegal aliens the right to vote. Remember, Democrats have said they don't want Russian interference in the U.S. elections. We've been hearing about that for 3 years now. We've spent $35 million for 2 years in the Mueller report talking about collusion and the interference of Russians in the U.S. elections. And now they want to give illegal aliens the right to vote. And they're doing it through a backdoor of giving them a driver's license so that they will show up in the registration, because we also have automatic registration in New York given to us by the single-party Democratic leadership. Notice how these things fall into place. First, you get automatic registration. And now you get this new thing of, well, we're going to give illegals driver's licenses so that they can be automatically registered and accidentally vote in our elections, having both illegal and international influence in our elections. Does this sound consistent in any way with what Democrats are complaining about for the last 2 years? Does it sound fair? And then they want to take away the Electoral College so that only the popular vote, which includes illegal aliens voting, is the vote that's going to count. Are we rigging elections here? And I have to ask that question, are we rigging elections? Because the Democratic Party has rigged elections. The one thing we did find out in all this collusion investigation is that Democrats have rigged elections. They rigged the primary against Bernie Sanders in 2016. We know that is a fact. That is not a question. It is not an if or a maybe. That is a fact. We know for a fact that they rigged elections. So we have to question when we see Democrats Governor Cuomo, the Democratic state legislature of New York, are going out there trying to give illegal aliens the ability to get a driver's license that would give them the ability to vote. We have to question that chain of actions. We have to. And we're seeing this not just here. We've seen in California that illegal aliens have been given the right to vote. We're seeing in other Democrat-led states that they are looking to give the illegal aliens the ability to vote. And mind you, most of those states are progressive Democrat states, which is a difference than just Democrats. They are the fringe left. We're talking about progressive leaders of tomorrow. We're talking about citizen action. We're talking about indivisible New York. We're talking about the fringe, the smallest portion of the Democratic Party. They're not the mainstream, but they are trying to drag the rest of the party with them. And this takes away from our elections. This is a problem. And we know this is a problem because, like I said, the Siena poll, what does it show? 53% of people in New York oppose the idea. This is versus in April, 55% have voted. Now you would say, well, it's getting more popular. No, it's not. The number of undecided people are getting higher, not anything else. There were 55% of Democrats that were in favor of giving a driver's license to illegal aliens. Now in June, 53%. They lost 2%. Okay. Now, mind you, there are more independents that have joined this idea. Now, 55% of independents oppose giving driver's licenses, and 82%, this has actually gone up, 82% of Republicans are against giving illegal aliens a reward. So you have to wonder, when the state is saying that they don't want this overwhelmingly, and when you have a majorities of both the Republican Party and people who are not in a party, which is over 60% of the entire state, you have to say to yourself, gee, why are we doing this? And it goes back to the one thought that I have that brings me right back to, well, Democrats have been known to rig elections, and Democrats are looking to change the rules of voting at the same time, which gives them more votes, which gives them the ability to gain more power. This is all about power. And we should be aware of it. And you should not be happy about this. When they don't want to tell you what's going on, and they don't want to answer questions, and they want to distract people from what the real issues are on the local level, and then they scale that up on the national level, and they try on the state level, where they try and pass bills that the people don't want. Remember, they respond to us. They are our representatives. They're not there. They're not nobles. They're not there to tell us what we should be doing and that what we have to live with. They answer to us. We are the voters. We are the power of the nation. 10th Amendment. All powers in the government are ours until we give them a law or allow them to do something. That's it. We are the power of the people. We are the power of the government. We need to remind these politicians of this. This stuff is just insane that it's going on, and it's aggravating. But what we're going to do is we're going to take a quick break. Then I'm going to come back. I want to talk about the CDC. I want to talk about Godzilla and what's going on with that. And then we'll see what else time is left in the show. So we look forward to that. We'll be right back with you in just a moment. right, folks, we are back. And yes, this is No Soundbites Allowed, your favorite podcast, I like to believe, and fighting YouTube and censorship all the way. Please do check out our public service announcement, fighting the YouTube censorship. Your support is important. Please remember to like, share, comment, subscribe. This is the only way we can get the message out to YouTube that they cannot just hide and destroy and shadow ban all the content that we love, and to hold them accountable and to support our First Amendment. So please do remember that. In addition, if you have the opportunity, you are in the southern tier of New York, in Binghamton, New York, drop by the Pelmar Pub and the Park Diner. This is not a paid advertisement. They are my friends, and I enjoy the food, the drinks, the great atmosphere there. And I do recommend that if you are in those areas, check them out, because I think they are fantastic. And again, that's not paid. That's just my opinion. Actually, what do you think of those establishments, John?
Me? They're good. I really like the Park Diner. Really like their food.
See? So it's not just me. Mm-hmm. Even the intern loves the Park Diner and the Belmar Pub as well. And so do check them out. So we got a lot to go through and not a lot of time here, so I'm going to be real brief because I do want to get to Godzilla. I promised it. I worked on it. I think it's pretty nice. But I do think it's important to mention, I know a lot of people have heard about the CDC, the Center for Control. And I want to show you that one of the more recent reports you may have heard about was back in December of 2018. The CDC reported that U.S. gun deaths reach highest level in nearly 40 years. Everyone's heard about this, that the CDC has been they're the go-to people to show gun deaths, and we've heard, all of the anti-gun groups, the Brady's, the Brady organization, the nonprofit, everybody that hates guns have come out. Dianne Feinstein and so many others have used the CDC and quoted their numbers to say that, hey, we have this massive problem, and it's not just Chicago, because it is really Chicago. But, if you take out Chicago, we drop massively. So, but that's another thing. But they quote this and they say, this is the reason why we need gun control. This is why we need to take away the rights of the Second Amendment. This is why former Supreme Court Justice John Paul Stevens, has said that we need to remove the Second Amendment and to take away the cornerstone of our democracy and to turn the United States into the early stages of Venezuela, just before the government came back and decided to run people over and kill them because they had no guns, which is why I oppose that. That's the answer. That's what happens. And we see this in every single socialist nation. This is always what happens. You lose your firearms. The next thing you know, the government comes back. They're the only ones with guns, and they kill the people. North Korea, China, Russia, Cuba, Venezuela. Name the socialist nation. This is what you see happen every single time. Just a matter of when it happens, but it always happens. So we don't want to lose the Second Amendment here. But they use the CDC to be able to go out and say, hey, you know what? There's a big problem, and it's getting bigger, and it's getting bigger, and it's getting bigger. It's more and more of a problem. You know what they didn't tell you? Well, what you didn't hear announced in the news yesterday, which is big, is that according to Think Progress and from the CDC itself, that anti-gun violence activists, they're no longer using the dubious CDC statistics. Again, the leading gun violence protection nonprofit is not going to use the numbers from the CDC because the numbers are wrong. That's the Brady campaign, one of the biggest anti-gun, anti-Second Amendment groups in the nation, huge lobbyists down in Washington, D.C., and they don't want to use the CDC numbers. So I had to look into that when I saw that, and I know it's not getting enough attention. There aren't enough people talking about this. Well, guess what? The CDC, according to Think Progress, and I'm going to go off the article itself, says right here, the CDC provides annual estimates of the number of people injured, not killed, by guns. But even the CDC will tell you that its data should be taken with a massive grain of salt. It appended its notes to its 2016 and 2017 findings that warned its figures were, quote, unstable and potentially unreliable, end quote. Stop right there. The CDC is saying that its numbers that it's reported that are part of this growth of unprecedented levels in January of 2018, the numbers before it were wrong, that they're unreliable. Can you get that? You're being misled. The quotes from Dianne Feinstein, the Brady Campaign, so many other of these anti-Second Amendment groups like Citizen Action and Progressive Leaders of Tomorrow, they're lying to you. They're giving you numbers that are wrong, that are knowingly wrong from the CDC. That is a problem. This is how you destroy someone's freedom. You give them the wrong data, knowingly giving them the wrong data so that people make the wrong decisions based on that data, and then you can't ever come back from it. There is no walking back. People in Venezuela aren't getting their right to the Second Amendment back. They're getting killed by the government or starved by the government. They're not getting their freedom back. So, and I found this really interesting, and I want to go a little bit further in this article by Think Progress that came out yesterday, June 10th. An analysis by Trace, a nonprofit news organization dedicated to covering gun violence in the United States, and 538, by the way, 538 is a left-leaning think tank. They're not friends of the right. Found that the CDC's recent report of, quote, steady increases in non-fatal gun injuries is out of step with a downward trend we found using data from multiple independent public health and criminal justice databases, end quote. So, and the emphasis on downward, that's from the article. That's from the analysis by Trace, the nonprofit news organization. Okay? That's what they're saying. They're saying that violence, and this is confirmed with 538, the trend is down. I want to go back again. Now, remember, I said the trend is down. CDC report, U.S. gun deaths reach highest level in nearly 40 years. You notice this is not the same thing? The CDC is already telling you their numbers are wrong for 2016, 2017, that their data is unreliable. Then they tell you that, well, gun deaths are up high, and everyone quotes it. No one quotes the fact that their numbers in 2016, 2017 were wrong, or that the data from the CDC itself says that it's unreliable. But everyone told you that gun deaths were up 40%. And then we find out when other groups do the data themselves, it's actually trending down. You know what? That's just wrong. That is wrong. If again, you're being manipulated, you're being given half the information. And I have to say, shame on the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, the CDC. Shame on them. A Game of Thrones, shame on them for misleading the public and not going out there and having the biggest press conference they possibly could to tell people that their numbers are wrong, that they have misled the public, and that this information, they shouldn't believe it because they don't know what they're talking about. And when you're quoting bad information, you don't know what you're talking about. This is something that should be far, far, far more public and getting far more attention, and it is not. The mainstream media doesn't want to tell you that. Kind of like what I was talking about in the first half of the show. They're just not telling you things that you should know that make a difference in your life and the way that you're going to vote. That's a shame. That's a shame. But let's go on to something. I want to end the show on a much lighter note. I think you're looking forward to this, right, Intern John?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, John the Intern is interested in this. And the Intern, John, let me ask you something. Because we're going to go with something that's kind of fun here. So, John the Intern, let me ask you, have you been a fan of Godzilla?
Yeah, actually, since I was a little kid.
Okay, so Little kid, how old are you?
I'm 19.
Okay, so not the full extent of how long Godzilla has been out there. Then again, Godzilla's been around longer than I'm alive. I'm 51. I was a fan back in the 70s. So have you seen the classic Godzilla?
I've seen most of the Showa era. For those who don't know, that's kind of the 60s, 70s era Godzilla.
Yes.
So I've seen most of those films.
Those are the original guy in a rubber suit stomping on Tokyo model trains.
And that's my favorite, yes.
Before they got the CGI and all that. And so there's been a couple of evolutions. So they started with the guy in the rubber suit. And then as technology got better, they got more and more CG in there to what we're seeing now, which is almost entirely CG. So I'm a big fan of this. And I'm actually a uber geek, a uber nerd, whatever you want to call it. I love my sci-fi, which I have no shame of. So I was watching over the weekend. I got done with some yard work. And I decided that I was going to go check out a video. Like anyone else, I use YouTube. And until YouTube shuts everybody down that they don't like, we're able to check out and have the freedom to see things. And I saw the 25 most powerful Godzilla monsters, which is by Screen Rant. And they're a good program. They got nice stuff on their YouTube page. No big deal. So I was checking out, and then I was inspired. Okay? I was inspired because I was thinking Godzilla, 2020 election. They're connected. Godzilla and the 2020 election, they're connected. And that's when I decided that I would write and put this together, a neat little article, which again, you can go to the Voss Political Commentary and you can see this. And it's called, What If the 2020 Election Was a Kaiju Monster Battle? Okay, let me stop right there. Kaiju means monster. It's just a big monster. Doesn't matter what the monster is. It could be a big robot. It could be a big dog. It could be Godzilla. Anything like that. What was Pacific Rim is a kaiju movie. It's a big monster movie. It's a big robot movie. Kaiju. That's what it is. So for all the people who are nerds and geeks like me. So what if the 2020 election was a kaiju monster battle? Now you can go to my site and see the details on this. I'm just going to do a quick run through of the rankings. So imagine that everyone who is running right now for the 2020 election, imagine if they were one of the classic monsters from Godzilla series. And I looked around. No one else has done this. This is the first time you're going to see this list. It's about 14 people, and we're going to go through the rank of each and every one of the candidates as a monster and who would win at the end. So that means we start off with 2020 Kaiju election. This is the 2020 Kaiju election. And the H tier. Okay, let me stop again for a second. In Japan, they have ranks. So instead of A, B, C, D, they have S, 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 A, B, C going down. And the H tier is about the lowest you can get. That is a complete fail. It is the abject failure. It is the bottom of the bottom. The best of the best is an SS. That is the top tier. The bottom is H. You cannot do worse than this. You don't exist if you're not on the tier. Okay? So that puts it in perspective. And who's in the H tier? The bottom of the bottom, the worst of the worst? Godzilla. Yeah, so and I'm trying to combine the candidate's name with the monster's name. So it's Godzilla. As in Gillibrand, Godzilla. That is the monster. And some of these names I'm going to have to say a couple times because it's kind of hard. But I was trying to get that. And then we go next into the ranks. We have the 2020 Kaiju election D tier. And that would include Alex Hedos, like I said, you have to say these a couple times. Alex Heda Ocasio Cordera, or AHOC, and she's right there alongside Justin Amothra. That's right, Justin Amothra. That's our D tier. The Libertarians and AOC herself. That's where they would rank in the 2020 Kaiju election. I have my C tier, which is the C tier of the Kaiju election for 2020. Kumano Yang is up there. We have the Space Zillary. And we have Bat de Blasio. So these are a couple of these names. And if you know some of these characters, and if you go to the main article, you'll be able to see all of their full names of both the candidates and the monsters, and why, what are the main characteristics of them. So that's why they're that candidate. So, but let's keep going. So we're at the C tier. We're midway through. And so far, I think it's been pretty accurate. Okay? Space Auxiliary is one of my favorites there. Space Auxiliary. Space Godzilla, yeah. And look at the faces that she has. Do you see that? It's just a great match. That, and I also like Hedorah as being Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. If you don't know who these guys are, definitely look at the article. You can look it up. But in the B tier, we're getting to people who actually matter somewhat. The 2020 Kaiju election has Mecha Beto. I got Mecha Godzilla and I got Beto in the same pose. It's perfect. So we got Mecha Beto. And we also have Clotu and Mukur, as in Muto. So Mukur and Clotu, who are in the B tier. Then we got our favorites, the A tier. We're almost there, and we're in the top groups here. And this one's going to be a little tough, so bear with me as I'm going to try to say it again. So the 2020 Kaiju election A tier, top threes here. This is Mega Gawarin, okay, Mega Gawarin. And we have Kama Gigan. Kama Gigan is actually the easier one to say. Mega Gawarin, that's just a tough one. You know what? It's hard to combine these folks, okay? So bear with me. Give me a break here. I'm sure someone who speaks Japanese could probably melt this together a lot better than I can, but you know, it's tough. And they're trying to be funny. These are tough names to mix, okay? Deal with it. So we got the 2020 S tier. Now remember, in Japan, S is the best. This is the second to best. The top of the line here. So we've got Megal Biden. God, these names are worse. You know, I practiced and I did it better than this. So we got, I really did better in practice. So we got Megal Biden, and we have Titano Sanders, which I think is kind of funny. Titano Sanders. That's one of my other favorites, Titano Sanders. So let me stop before I get any further. Let me ask you, intern, ever so happy intern John, do you know who these people are?
Yeah, for the most part.
Okay, so which one of these so far has been your favorite?
As far as names or candidate-wise?
Well, both.
Probably candidate-wise, none of them are great. But Titano Sanders is probably the best name you could have come up with. Titanosaurus.
You think so?
Titano Sanders. It's just too perfect.
Yeah, that's actually Titanosaurus is the kaiju.
It's the original monster.
It's the monster that fights Godzilla, and of course Bernie Sanders. So Titano Sanders. I like that one. Mm-hmm. I kind of like Mecha Beto.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, just, you know, and he's
it's just I don't think of Beto O'Rourke very much. Nor is Iowa, apparently.
Well, no one does. Matter of fact, did you still got the Real Clear Politics up?
Yeah, I do.
Where is Mecha Beto at?
Beto is 3.8%.
Mecha Beto is 3.8%. Wow.
And he's in the top 6.
That's why he's in the B tier. This is what the B tier is all about. We've got a couple of minutes, so before I give away, and I want people to understand, before we're going to give away the S tier, what is the top Kaiju election 2020 winner, the number one person, before we get to that, we're going to talk a little bit about these guys. We want to get this. So let's go back to our H tier, the bottom, the losers. Let's talk about Gillazilla. Mm-hmm. Okay. You know who that is, right?
Oh, of course.
Who's Zilla?
It's Kristen Gillibrand.
Well, besides the fact that it's Kristen Gillibrand, you know who Zilla is?
Yeah, Godzilla.
It's the 2014 remake of Godzilla with Matthew Broderick.
Wasn't it? You mean the 2000 remake?
Was it 2000?
It was 2000 and 1999. One of the two.
It was 2000. It's the one with Matthew Broderick in it.
It's a really bad movie.
It's a horrible movie. It's absolutely... If you're a fan of Godzilla, you hate this. This is why the creature's called Zilla, and it lasts 10 seconds against Godzilla in Japan. It's just a wreck. So that's why we have her in the H. And her rank was what?
Her rank was 0.4.
This is why we have...
Second to last.
Second to last. This is the H tier, folks. This is where you get to the bottom. Okay? Now, Hedorah. I know a lot of people don't know this.
It's the smog monster, isn't it?
That's what I was going to say. It's the smog monster. Back in the 70s, the movie was Godzilla versus the smog monster.
It's a weird film, too, if I remember. It's very 70s.
Well, so is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Okay. Miss Magic Mushrooms herself. Yeah, she's Hedorah.
Yeah.
And so if you're wondering, what is Hedorah? That's the smog monster. You probably know the name of the smog monster because that's what I grew up hearing the name as in the American version of the Japanese film. So, but it's Hedorah. So it's very hard, but I like AHOC. I like that as the name. So that's a neat little nickname. Well, she's not in the race, but you're kidding yourself if you don't think she's actually having an impact. Mm-hmm. So we got a couple more minutes, so I do want to get into a couple of the others. So for Yang. Now, a lot of people who probably don't know much about this, and I want to be clear. You know who Yang is?
Andrew Yang, of course.
Andrew Yang, that's right. And Andrew Yang, American, who wants to give everyone money, kind of, sort of. He might want to give you money forever, and that's why he wants you to buy. So he's basically trying to buy people's votes. And Yang is actually Komanga. Komanga is a big spider. Okay? Not very original as these monsters go. It's just a really, really big spider. Kind of boring and gets stomped easy. Where is Andrew Yang?
Andrew Yang is at 0.8%.
And this is why he's in the C tier. That's why he's in the C tier. Now, I know they don't have Hillary Clinton in there anymore. She's no longer running, but I know if you went to predict it, they still have her ranked, and she's still got a bet that she's going to be in the race. But, Hillary is nothing less than Space Godzilla, who is a bad guy. Space Godzilla is an evil bad guy, and there goes Hillary. And I like that picture. You got the big evil smile of Space Godzilla. You got the whatever that expression is by Hillary Clinton. I think it works perfect.
It does.
Space Zillary. I think I even called it wrong. I think I called it Space Hillary. It's actually Space Zillary. I can't even read my own bloody writing. I'm so dumb. Okay, so let's go to who is the S tier, though. SS, the best of the best. Who do you think's the best of the best?
So far, I would imagine it's probably the only man who has any chance of winning this thing.
That's right. The only one who can win, the only one who is undefeated, the only one that everyone is talking about. We said it so many times. Godzilla, we're talking about for the 2020 Kaiju election, the SS tier, the best of the best, is Gotromp. Gotromp is the best. This is the one we're picking for the winner. This is our number one place. And you may disagree. You may not agree. I agree. I think it's perfect. It's my list. It was my fun. But real quick, we're almost out of time. What do you think, intern John? John, the intern.
I think Trump does have the best shot at winning. I think Andrew Yang is going to pull ahead of quite a bit more, I think, in the future. He's getting more and more popular, I know, especially with doing...
Yeah, but what about the Kaiju?
Oh.
In the Kaiju rings, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
I agree. I think Mechagodzilla would be higher, but... And Mothra D tier. Mothra's my favorite Kaiju, so... Okay.
Justin, a Mothra is... libertarians always lose. Mothra always loses.
No.
Mothra is always killed.
Mothra won against Godzilla and Mothra versus Godzilla.
After he got killed.
Well, his kids...
Yeah, he got killed. Okay, there you go. You know what? Read the article. You'll see why I say Justin Amothra is just not a winner. He's on the list, but he's not a winner. I get it. Fan favorite.
To visit mvoss.com and check out the article.
Yes, you have to go there and check it out, and you'll be able to see what I'm talking about in that. And yes, we have Justin Amothra up there and why he's not great. But and we also mentioned in this race, in the 22 Kaiju election, there is no King Kong, just no one who's equal to Godzilla. There is no Jet Jaguar. I know he's a fan favorite. He's not out there. We do mention also some of our dishonorable mentions, which include Destroya and also King Ghidorah. So we advise you check out the article, enjoy it, have some fun. I hope that made some people laugh, even a little bit. But with that said, we will be back on Thursday at 1 p.m. We look forward to seeing you, and we'll talk to you again very, very soon.